I'm Emily and welcome to episode 2 of the PetiteKnit Knitting Podcast. I'm a knitter based in Perth in Western Australia. I also enjoy sewing and some other crafts which will make an appearance today, but if you're just here for the knitting, I will leave those towards the end. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to sharing my projects with you. And thank you so much if you watched my first episode. I was a little bit overwhelmed by the number of people who wanted to listen to me talk about knitting for half an hour. So if that was you, thank you very much. Anyways, let's get started and I will talk about what I'm wearing first. This is my Tolsta Tee by Rebecca from the Creabea. This was a finished object in my last episode, so I won't go into too much detail again. I knit this one in Fiori DK Merino silk in the cream color, and the contrast stripes are BC Garn Bio Balance. I did mention last time I was a little bit worried about the pilling and the wear of this yarn, and it's not too bad, to be honest. I have been wearing cardigans over it, so there has been a little bit more friction on it, and it's not too bad. I think I can keep it under control, so perhaps I would buy this yarn again in the future. I only have one finished object to share today, and that is my Lily tank top by Avec. I knit this one in 100% bamboo yarn from Hobie in this really nice dark green color. I had a few balls left over from a previous project, so I'm glad that I have got that out of stash now and have a nice summer top to wear. I'll try it on so I can show it off a little bit better. So I made a few modifications to the pattern. The first one being the length. I took out about 10 centimeters of the body to make it quite cropped, as that is just my personal preference. I'll stand up so we can see how long it is. You can already see one of the problems with this, but we'll get into that. I think being 100% bamboo, it will probably stretch out a lot, so I didn't want to make it too long to start with and then it just keep growing anyway. As you can see, the hem is really uneven. I think that was my fault when I was blocking it. I just didn't pay enough attention to making sure that it was all even. I also didn't want to pull it out too wide and then lose even more length, but I think I might have to reblock it and just make sure that it's all even. And I think that's just part of having such a slippery yarn like this. It is nice and breathable though, so I think it will be a good addition to my summer wardrobe. The other modification I made was the hem. I just did a straight folded over hem. In the original pattern, there's a really nice little picot hem. I wasn't sure how it would look in this yarn and I wanted just something different, so I just went for the straight hem. I think it still looks quite nice and it maybe suits the yarn a little bit better. I made a third modification as well to the straps. I made them quite a bit shorter than specified in the pattern, just out of laziness. It was just really hard doing double knitting on this really slippery yarn on metal needles. I had to do 4 of them and I was just not having it. I just kind of wanted this off my needles, to be honest. I just needed a quick project to get this yarn out of my stash. I am quite happy with the final piece though, so I think it was worth it in the end. The original pattern, you can tie them into little bows. I've just double knotted these. They're quite long, so I think I could tie in a bow if I wanted to, but that's okay. I'm still really happy with it anyway. If I hold it up, you can see a little bit more what I mean about the hem. It's very wrinkled and not very straight. I don't love that the sides go further down than in the middle and in the back. So I think if I just reblock it, we should solve those issues. I did struggle a little bit with weaving in my ends. Being an inexpensive yarn, I wasn't surprised when I found quite a few knots in the balls, which is really annoying for such a slippery yarn, and I just got to the middle of a round. I think some of these are right in the middle of the front and the back, so it's really obvious. I could have just ripped back a little bit and tied the knot on the side, but I was just being lazy. I did my best, so I think it's not too bad. You can see here where I've had to weave ends in the middle. I can live with that. I don't think anyone else is going to notice it. That is my only knitted finished object for today, but I have quite a few works in progress that I'm looking forward to sharing. This is a linen stitch cushion cover that I'm working on. I'm not following a pattern, as I said previously, I'm just making it up as I go. I cast on 225 stitches using Judy's Magic Cast On, and then I'm just working in magic loop on my 100 centimeter cable to go round and round and do the front and the back at the same time. I'm knitting this in Manos del Uruguay Fino, and I have a mini skein set that I'm kind of fading the colours between to make the cushion cover. So I've knit the navy, the undyed and the aqua yarn, and then I'm going to add in the green and then this kind of pinky grey colour at the end. I really like how the 2-colour linen stitch looks. I was a little bit worried about running out of yarn, but I think I will have actually some extra left over. Not all of the mini skeins were the same weight. I did weigh them before I started, and a couple of them were maybe 2 or 3 grams less. Altogether it made up 100 grams, but some of them were like 16 or 17 grams. I think the blue was one of the lighter skeins, so I knew that if I didn't run out of the blue, I would be safe for the rest of the colours. I'm just working on this as and when I feel like picking it up. There's no rush to get it done, but it is quite a slow going project considering the linen stitch takes forever to actually get anywhere with it, but it's nice to just kind of plod along slowly but surely. I probably could have done with making it a little bit wider and maybe each section a tiny bit longer, but I think blocking it might help stretch out a little bit anyway. And I kind of want a little bit of negative ease over the pillow so it's not all saggy and wrinkled. So we'll just see how we go. There's no rush to get this one done. Next, I have a pair of socks on the go. As you can see, I've already finished one and we are on the leg of the second sock. These are the Broken Record Broken Rib socks by Alex Parker Mooney. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I came across this in the Woolly Workers episode on what to do with single skeins of yarns. Really good video. If you are interested in watching that one, I will leave a link to it below. I am knitting these in some Circus Tonic handmade yarn. This is the bamboo sock blend and this colour is called Spangled Drongo. I spoke previously in my last episode that I kind of wanted a sock pattern that would enhance the colours and not make it look too busy. However, they're socks for my grandparents who don't live here with me, so I wanted something that would have a bit more flexibility in the fit as well. Those two things considered, I went for this broken rib sock pattern as I have a little bit of give in the width of the sock and it's not too busy. I think it shows off the colour really nicely. This is a beautiful dusty blue navy colour. I think the pattern kind of really showcases the yarn colour, but it also has a little bit of interest rather than just being a plain vanilla sock. This was the first time I'd knit broken rib and I've always really liked the look of the texture, and it is so much fun to knit, especially in the round like this, because you're only purling kind of in this case, every 4th stitch, every other round. So it's not too much purling, but you still get a really nice ribbed look. If I open it up, you can really see the texture. This one, I followed the pattern. I just did a slip stitch heel flap and gusset. I think the slip stitch heel flap also makes them a little bit more sturdy. They're less likely to wear through like a short row heel would, and I find that they fit a wider variety of people, so that's just my go-to heel. I don't mind picking up the stitches and doing the gusset decreases. I'm doing a 72 stitch sock, which is the largest size in the pattern, on 2.25mm needles. It's quite a nice gauge, but it is not going by too slowly. I knit the first sock in like 3 or 4 days. I don't know what happened. I think I just didn't have any other projects on the go that interested me, and I just got into the rhythm of the broken rib and smashed out the first sock really quickly. The second sock is going a little bit more slow, but that's okay. I have quite a while until these need to be ready to go, so we're just taking our time on this one. My next work in progress was a bit of a spontaneous cast on. Wasn't vibing the socks, wasn't vibing the cushion cover, and I wanted something on slightly chunkier needles that would feel like it was going by a little bit quicker, so I cast on a Sophie Shawl. I have made one of these before. I made it in some Noro yarn that I picked up from Yarn Trader when I was in Adelaide earlier this year. Another beautiful store if you're anywhere near Adelaide. It's definitely worth the little bit of a journey out to Port Adelaide to go and visit. Anyways, I'm not making this one in Noro yarn. This one I'm making in some Bendigo Woollen Mills Luxury 8-ply in the colour Slate. It's coming up a little bit more kind of lighter blue than it is in real life. It is quite a kind of a deep dull grey. I have made a sweater out of this yarn already. I made the curve sweater also by the Creabea, and I had quite a bit left over. I had 3 balls left, and they're pretty generously sized balls. They come in 200 grams each. So I had about 600 grams left, and seeing as I'd already made a sweater out of this yarn, I didn't mind having another one, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. I'm holding the yarn double and working on 5mm needles, which is what's recommended in the pattern. It is a superwash yarn, so it is really nice and soft. When it blocks, it does become quite drapey. At the moment it's looking a little bit stiff, but I'm sure when I block it, it will kind of gain all of the drape. The sweater was the same. When I was knitting it up, it did seem a little bit stiff, but as soon as I blocked it, it kind of loosened up. I'm not sure what size of the shawl I'm going to make yet. Maybe the large one. I think I want to make quite a big one. The first one I made is quite small. I think it's even smaller than the smaller size in the pattern, mainly because I only bought one ball of the No yarn and I just knit what I had. So hopefully this one can be a little bit bigger and I can really wrap myself up in it. I still wear the original one I have. It's probably a bit better for mild winter days. I want something that I can really cozy up in for this version. My plan is to just keep knitting until I've used up half my yarn, or until I think it's going to be long enough, and then start doing the decreases. As everyone says, it looks like quite a mindless pattern, but because you're counting your increases or decreases, it's not super mindless. I found the easiest way for me to do that is to just put a stitch marker where I increase, and then it's a bit easier to kind of visually see without having to count when I need to do my next one. As it is superwash, I think I'll be able to block out and gain a lot of length in this garter. It's just really nice and soft and squishy, and I'm really excited to have something I can just be all cozy in and keep me warm. I don't think I'll need to use all 3 balls to get a size shawl that I want to, so if I have enough left, I might make a hat out of the rest of the yarn. I think it would be quite fun to have a matching hat and shawl. My go-to hat pattern is Oslo hat by PetiteKnit, which seems like everybody's go-to hat pattern. It's for a good reason. It's very straightforward, easy knitting in the round, and then you join the brim, keep knitting, do the decreases, and you have a hat. There's no purling or anything tricky involved. But if you have another DK weight hat pattern, let me know and I'd be keen to try something a bit different. I've made 3 or 4 of them now, mostly as gifts, but it would be nice to try something different as well. I have one more work in progress that was also a spontaneous cast on. I wanted a garment that I could work on. I have signed up for a test knit and I'm still waiting on the yarn. It's been over a week and it was quite a short deadline for the test knit, so I'm a little bit worried, but besides the point. I wanted a garment that I could be working on. So I cast on a mini mock neck tank by Jessie Maed Designs. It looks very small, but I've seen a lot of people make this and they all say the same thing. It looks tiny, but it's meant to have negative ease, so I think we'll be okay. I did gauge swatch, so I'm confident that I can just trust the pattern and enjoy the process. I'm knitting the second size of the pattern and I'm making this in Knitting for Olive Merino in Artichoke Purple. I'm really loving this color. I'm loving this yarn. It's really nice to knit with. It's a non-superwash yarn, which I was talking about wanting to try more of. I'm finding that it's a little bit more difficult to find good non-superwash yarns in all of my local yarn stores. There are a few more popping up, which is really exciting to see. But the vast majority of what I can buy in store is superwash. There's nothing wrong with that. I just kind of want to try and branch out and try something a little bit different and kind of experience the qualities of those types of yarns as well. I find that superwash yarn is also not as warm. I've made a zipper sweater and my Kerr sweater from the Bendigo Woollen Mills yarn, and whilst it is nice and soft and it is nice and squishy and also really affordable, they don't keep me as warm as I would like, especially my zipper sweater. I thought being such a chunky, thick knit, I would be able to wear it on really cold days, but I find that it just doesn't have the same warmth as I would have really wanted. Anyways, the Bendigo Woollen Mills is still a really great yarn and I will probably still purchase it in the future for specific projects, but for now I'm just enjoying working with something a little bit different. So I have knit the back panel and then picked up and done the kind of the front sections for the neck and done a little bit of the shaping here. It's a really fun pattern. I'm sure everybody has already spoken about this, so I have nothing really new to add, but it is such an engaging project. You just kind of want to keep going and getting on to the next section, and I think that is partly due to the way that Jessie structures the patterns, it's very clear what section you're up to and what you're doing. So you just want to kind of get ahead and then finish that bit and then move on to the next bit and then see how the construction is taking shape. The ribbing for the armholes is also knit at the same time, so it's really nice that you don't have to go back at the end and add that on. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes it's nice to not have an extra step involved. When I've been looking at other people's versions of this, I really like the way the crew neck looks, so I think I might go for that rather than the full mock neck, but we'll just see what happens when I go to pick up the stitches, and I'll just keep trying it on until I'm happy with it. I still have quite a bit of knitting to go before I need to make that decision anyway. I really loved the version that Laura from Penrose Knits made. In her version, she made the neck quite short, and I think it looks really, really nice. It will be such a good layering piece in colder weather, especially considering I made this in 100% merino. I think I'll also get quite a bit of wear out of it during spring and summer. I don't find I overheat too easily in merino, and it's sleeveless, so we'll just see how we go. I have a couple of skeins of yarn sitting in my stash that I've kind of penciled in to make more of these mini mock neck tanks. One of them is a plain grey, so I think it would be good to have this in a very neutral colour that would go with any bottoms. And I also have a skein from Hedgehog Fibers in these beautiful pinks and neon colours that are totally out of my comfort zone. I also bought that skein when I was in Yarn Trader. The colours are not something I'm typically drawn to. I feel like that's what Hedgehog Fibers are known for. So in the future we might have a nice neon bright one to go with a neutral grey and this really nice purple. So that's all the knitting I have to share today. If you're not interested in the sewing, that's not a problem. Thank you so much for watching until this point. But if you are, I do have a few things to share. I braved a trip to Spotlight last weekend and I'm actually quite glad I did. It's not my favourite place to get fabric, but it is the most convenient and most local to me. So we did get a couple of good finds there. I was quite impressed by their selection of printed rayons that they have in for spring and summer, and I saw this one and I just had to get some to make a dress. It is this beautiful floral and I really love the colours. Yellow and pink are some of my favourite colours. I was really inspired when I saw the fabric. I got home, I washed it, I dried it, and I made the dress all in one day. I tend to not sew very much during winter. It's more of a summer craft for me. I think I'm just more drawn to the patterns and the fabrics that you can make summer clothing with. So I made a saltwater slip dress from this fabric. This is a pattern by Friday Pattern Co. and I'll put in some photos of me wearing it so you can get a better picture of it. I have made a saltwater slip dress before. I also made it in a rayon, but I don't wear that one as much. I think it's just the colour. It's a really nice green rayon fabric, but it's just not really my vibe, whereas this one is something I can see myself wearing a lot more. I think there were a few things about the first one I made that I also didn't love, so I knew that I could make a few changes to my second one. For both of them, I made the size extra small for the bust and then graded it down to a small for the waist and the hips, and I was really happy with how that fit me. The dress also has these ties that go on the sides and then you can kind of cinch the waist in. My first one, I placed them where you're directed to by the pattern, but I knew for my second one I wanted them just a little bit higher, and I'm glad I did because now they kind of sit at the smallest part of my waist and I just like the way that it looks a little bit better. I made this one a slightly bit longer as well because when I tie it, it does lose a little bit of the length, so I knew that I'd be a bit more comfortable in something slightly longer. So the pattern has adjustable straps, which is really nice because then you can make sure that it fits you the way that you want to and also wear it higher or lower depending on how you feel on the day. I couldn't find these, the hardware for these straps in Spotlight. I'm not sure if they just don't sell them or they were out of stock or I wasn't looking in the right place. So I either could have just sewn the straps directly down and not made them adjustable, but I actually took these from an old singlet that did have adjustable straps. I just cut those straps off as I knew that I could just sew them down to the length that I wanted and then have these adjustable. I really like that feature of my other dress, so I could have just sewn them straight down, but I really like that I can make them longer or shorter depending on how I want to style it. The next piece of fabric that I picked up from Spotlight is this really nice reddy brown linen viscose. I can't remember exactly what the blend was. I think there's definitely some linen in there, but it doesn't feel like 100% linen. It's a little bit too kind of soft and not wrinkled to be 100% linen. This was such a good deal. I think I got 2 meters or something for like $4. It was whatever was left on the bolt, and I think I needed a slightly bit more fabric to make what I wanted to based on the pattern, but I think I should be able to squeeze out of this piece of fabric. So my plan for this is to make a Sandpiper dress. I have made a couple of those before. I made a top version with the long sleeves for myself, and then I also made a long sleeve maxi length dress for one of my beautiful friends, and she looks so nice in it. I wanted my own version. I only have limited fabric and I want this to be more of a summery piece. I'm going to make the mini version with the short sleeves, and I think the puff sleeves are just so sweet, and in this fabric I think it was a good amount of drapiness but will still hold the structure of the puff sleeves. I also picked up some buttons whilst I was in Spotlight for the dress. I've previously done the self-covering buttons on the top and the dress so they match the main fabric, but I just don't want to have to do that again. I can't buy the correct size in any stores here, so I have to order them online, and they also are just so fiddly. That maxi dress took so long I don't even know how many buttons were on there. I think I had COVID at the time, so I spent like a whole afternoon making all of those buttons for the dress. I didn't feel like such a chore because I was just at home doing nothing anyway, but I just thought I'd make this one a little bit easier for myself. I already had one set of buttons in my stash. I picked up another set just in case. I wasn't sure how many I would need for the dress, but I did want the buttons to be kind of close together. I think if they're too far apart and you're moving around, I just didn't want to have to worry about there being any opening in my dress. These are the buttons that I want to use on the dress. They're these really sweet little shank buttons. They're like a cloudy plastic button, but I think on the fabric they look really nice. I'm excited to get this one cut out and get started. I don't think it's one that I'll be able to make in a day like I did the Saltwater dress. There's quite a few steps involved, especially with adding in the elastic, and there's a facing all the way around and down the dress as well. I think I'll take this one a little bit slower and enjoy the process. I just smashed through the first one. I was so excited to get my sewing machine out as I hadn't made anything all winter. So now I got that out of my system, I can take it easy on this one. I want this one to probably be a bit more fitted. The fit on the Saltwater dress is quite variable. You can get away with it being a little bit bigger because you have the ties to cinch it in a little bit as well. So for this one, I think I'll just take my time and make sure that I'm really happy with the fit. That is everything I have to share today, so thank you for watching until the end. If you wanted to check me out on Instagram, I'm also at PetiteKnit over there. I don't post super often, but I do share a little bit more regularly what I'm working on. I've had some people already reach out to me on Instagram who watched my previous episode, which made me so happy. One of you is also in Perth, so it was really nice to be able to talk about our shared experiences. I'm always happy to talk about knitting or sewing or any other craft, so it would be great if you wanted to reach out to me. I'm always open to have a chat. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.